What was I going to say? It's all her fault. This is one of our regular volunteers. She works for UCSI, right? God, I get that right. And joins us on our survey trips. So, okay, so we're going to talk about biodiversity conservation, whatever that means. Did John get an answer to his question upstairs? What does conservation mean?
No.
No?
No.
What does conservation mean? Serious question. Sorry?
Protecting.
No, I can protect my porcelain vase. Do I need to conserve it as well? I don't know if protecting is enough. It's a serious question. It's semi-rhetorical. So I agree with John. I don't think there is actually an answer. We bandy it around. See, in the sense of what we're doing, okay, we know what biodiversity is, right? We're active life on Earth that provides us lots of services that society needs. Good for us. And we know that biodiversity is being degraded because of global warming, storms for marine ecosystems, cutting down mangroves, building things like Forest City. So that's destroying a whole bunch of seagrass meadows and mangrove shoals. So conserving it means, yeah, protecting it. Maybe it does. Maybe it's as simple as that, saying we need these ecosystems, so we've got to look after them. Okay, we'll go with that for now. Thank you. Solve the problem. So, my name's Julian. It's not Mr. Julian. It's not my name. It's just Julian. You don't have to call me Mr. And I work for VIII Malaysia. I've worked for VIII Malaysia for 17 years. And there's some really interesting results in the polls. I don't know if any of you guys responded to the polls, but I'll go through these results later on. That was very interesting exercise. Do come in, Marcus.
Hi.
I saw you.
Okay,
Are you looking to take somebody out?
no, I'm coming to your research practice and then people don't you.
It's a small world. What was it saying?
Polls.
Polls, yeah, right, we'll come back to the polls. Community-based conservation. Why do we need to talk to communities? Why do we need to engage communities in this thing called protecting ecosystems? Just very, very briefly, I'm not going to spend long on this. VIII Malaysia is involved in marine conservation. We have 4 main areas of work. One is our VIII surveys. This is what Naval does. So every year we go to 300 sites around Malaysia. Where were you last? Prenton. So she's just done some surveys in Prenton. We've been doing this for 17 years. We go to the sites, we survey the same length of reef, and so we have the same indicator species, and we see how the health of the reefs is changing year on year. I'll show you a picture of what that looks like in a minute. We do some advocacy with local communities and with government agencies. Advocacy basically means just trying to persuade people that we're right and they're wrong. Trying to make them understand why we're doing what we're doing, why it's necessary. We do some science programs, which includes some reef rehabilitation, but it's not intended to be large-scale, trying to regrow reefs, because you can't do that. It's small scale, it's more like triage, so it's repairing reef that's been damaged or helping damaged reef to recover, just in small areas. An anchor, for example, or a boat strike, like that. And we work with communities to improve the management of marine resources. Okay, so that's what I'm going to focus on today. So those are the 3 marine ecosystems we're talking about. Just in case you're not sure what they are, it's mangroves on the left, seagrass is in the middle, and coral reefs on the right. Why are we dealing with these 3 ecosystems? Because they are 3 linked ecosystems. You have mangroves in the coastlines and in estuarine areas. Those flow out into seagrass areas sometimes, and then both of those are connected to coral reefs. You get some species which live different phases of their life cycle in each of the 3 ecosystems. So you get lobsters which spawn on the reef. The eggs move to the mangroves to start to mature. Once they've got to a certain stage, they move into the seagrass meadows, and then once they get mature, they move back out to the coral reef and start all over again. So if we lose one of those 3 ecosystems, then we've destroyed the life cycle of that particular species. That's just one small example. There are other species where you get fish that breed and grow in the seagrass meadow, for example, and then they'll move into deeper water, and they become the prey for the bigger fishes, like the tunas. So if we destroy this coastal fishery, we also have an impact on the deeper water tuna fishery, which affects many more. Okay. So these three ecosystems are important as fishery habitats, but also as tourism assets, particularly reefs. I mean, diving on seagrass is great fun if you've got good seagrass meadows. They have great seagrass meadows in Malaysia, aren't they? The Philippines have got great seagrasses. The diving is superb. You've got all sorts of weird little creatures in there. It's great. But reefs are the main one. So they have ecological value. They have economic value. Small-scale fish, there's about 100,000, actually over 100,000, on the east coast of Malaysia alone. All right, 100,000 people make their living from fishing. Okay, Malaysia has a fish habit. You consume about 57 kilograms per person per year. Where does it come from? It comes from these habitats. No more habitats, no more fish. Sorry guys, but that's life. And in tourism, on the East Coast Islands, Brenti and Redang, Tengol, Tioman, Masing Islands, there's about 10,000 local jobs there. It's worth about R1 billion in tourism incomes. So ecological importance, economic importance. Okay? You would think we would be conserving these valuable assets, but we are not. There's two sorts of things going wrong. We divide the problems into two. I'll come on to communities in a minute, I promise. We've got local impacts like stupid tourists standing on reefs. We've got fish bombing. We've got siltation from development projects. That is degrading reefs. We've got the bigger impacts, bigger storms from climate change, ocean warming, ocean acidification, and those are the kind of long-term things. The first one we can deal with. The second one, not so easy. We can do a little bit, but not much. What am I talking about? 40% lost of global coral reefs lost since 2009, 20% of mangroves lost, and 29% of seagrasses since 1980. Crikey. You know, these are our sources of food, right? They're there for coastal protection. And we're working with some people in south of Johor, Kampung Perigi. They have a nearby seagrass meadow. They use it for food, right? They take food from it. Oh, by the way, that food is contaminated by heavy metals from local industries. They still eat it. It's important for coastal protection for their village because it slows down the waves. Famously, do anybody remember the 2004 tsunami? You're all too young, I know. Waves across the Indian Ocean hit Sri Lanka, and there were villages in Sri Lanka where one village still had its mangroves intact and survived, and the village next to it didn't have its mangroves intact and got washed away. That's from Indonesia all the way across the Indian Ocean. Okay, so these things are important for coastal protection. So we need these things. I think we need to look after them a little better. And one of the ways we do that is working with the locals. But just to finish off, this is a heat map of Southeast Asia. You can see, make up the landmass of Malaysia there. This is from the National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration in the US. They publish data on heat, on sea surface temperatures regularly. And my first task on every Monday morning is to go on the NOAA website and download this picture, and I've been doing it since about 2014. The reason I do it is because we need to see what's happening with ocean temperature and where the bleaching is happening. Coral bleaching is when the corals throw out the symbiotic algae that live inside the tissues, which gives them their colour and most of their food. And so they leave exposed the white skeleton of the coral itself, which is basically means the corals are on a starvation diet. They're not very healthy and they're going to die quite soon. One of the main causes of that is hot water. The hot water stresses the coral, they throw the algae out, the corals are going to die. This started back in about February this year. We've been tracking it since about November last year. It started in earnest in February. The average water temperature on the east coast of Peninsula Malaysia is about 28 degrees, right, throughout the year. In 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, it was 30 degrees, 31 degrees, which is a big increase of corals. They can't manage it, they can't handle it. So they start to bleach and die off. We reckon that somewhere between 30 and 50% of corals are going to die by the end of this bleaching event this year. All right. The last time this happened was the last big event was in 1998, when we lost about 40 to 50% of corals. And it took about 20 years for them to recover. So in other words, they just recovered and it's happened again. Okay, there have been minor bleaching events in the middle, but this is a big, this is a major problem. There is nothing I can do about warm water in the ocean. I can't generate enough ice to throw into the water to cool it down. So we're going to have to deal with that in another way. This is what it looks like from our perspective. So this is going back to 2007, when we started conducting our surveys. And I want you to notice the trend between about 2014 20. This was the last bleaching event here. Right? We're looking at the green bars here. So this was the last bleaching event. We lost only a few percent of corals. Then it quickly recovered to about 2014. And then the slow year on year decline. Right? You can see it's only a little each year. It's nothing important, right? 1-2% a year. It's peanuts. Over 10 years, we've lost 5%, 10% of the reefs. Okay, so that's a big thing. Now what happens? 2020, oh, the reefs start to improve in health because COVID. No tourists. Right? Tourists are bad for reefs. Bit of a paradox, because that's why most people come to Malaysia, is to go diving on the reefs. And strangely, for 2023, once tourism starts coming back again, it all starts to go wrong again. So we've got these three ecosystems. They're valuable, okay? They provide fish, they provide jobs, they provide coastal protection. Now, we only have valuable, okay? They are in decline. We have survey data for a 17-year period. There's similar information available on mangroves and seagrasses, not as comprehensive as the coral data, but it's there. But the good news is, because we're all about good news, there are solutions available. What are we going to do? I go through this quite quickly because I want to give you a chance to ask questions. But if you have any questions while I'm going through it, feel free to stick a hand up, okay? There's a whole bunch of questions we need to think about. Right? And we are somewhere in the middle of all of this. Who's managing these ecosystems? Who manages coral reefs in Malaysia? The Department of Fisheries is responsible for managing marine parks around the islands off the east coast. Maybe from marine parks, but they're not very good at it. What's our tourism model? Is it appropriate? Malaysia has this thing about mass tourism. Right? It just wants bring more tourists, bring more tourists. Philippines is going for niche tourism. Thailand is going for niche tourism. Indonesia is going for niche tourism. What's Malaysia doing saying? Just bring them all here instead. We can bring them here, it's great. The airport proposal for Tianjin last year, the airport was predicting a fourfold increase in the number of visitors, right? Currently, best figures available, 250,000 visitors a year to Tianjin, right? So let's increase it to 1 million. What a smashing idea. Except, there's not enough rooms at peak season. We'll build some more hotels, cut down some more trees, we don't need those. Not enough water, dig some more wells. Not enough electricity, build another power station. Or, go high-end, high value, change the paradigm, change the model, just do something differently. So, we've got a problem with tourism. It's not just here, but have you been to Sampurna recently? Anybody been to Sampurna recently? Oh my God, you can't even get on the tourism jetties. So many people. How effective is management? Well, I've already given a giveaway on that one. It's not very effective. How can we improve that? That's important. How can it be improved? Can the threats be reduced? I already said I can't do anything about hot water, right? But imagine you have ecosystems that are threatened. And one of the problems is those local threats I talked about. Stupid tourists, fish bombing, right? This we can do something about. We can shoot the stupid tourists. we can educate the stupid tourists. We can shoot the fish bombers. No, we can stop the fish bombing happening. We can manage development on the islands. There's a thing called resilience. Resilience defines, it's a characteristic of ecosystems, and it defines how healthy it is. So, if you are like me, you're old, you drink too much, you smoke too much, you don't get any exercise, right? And COVID comes along, it's whack. Right? Again, I've got no resilience. Somebody young like this, who probably doesn't drink and doesn't smoke and gets exercise, COVID comes along, she's going to shrug it off. Alright? So I'm the coral reef, and there's all of these threats happening, I'm going to die off. If she's the coral reef, she's going to survive. So what do? We get rid of those threats. We look at water quality. That's one of the key resilience characteristics. What do you do about that on the islands? Well, there's no sewage treatment on the islands. Very basic sewage treatment. What can we do about that? Can we invest in sewage treatment somehow? Physical impacts to coral reefs, boats, tourists, tankers, pollution from boats. Can we fix that? Of course we can. We just improve best practices, introduce best practices for boating and diving operators, which we do via a program we have called Greenfins. What's the third one? Fisheries. We need herbivores. Herbivores I've always found as an interesting concept for the water. Herbivores eat grass, right? And the marine equivalent is algae growing on coral reefs, which parrotfish like to eat. So what do you need? You need lots of parrotfish eating the grass so it doesn't grow over the corals. Can we fix that? Of course we can. We just stop the fishing, right? So there are things we can do to build resilience so we can reduce the threats. Have we got appropriate policies? I love this question. People are always saying we need better policies. We have got all the policies we need. Trust me. We just have to enforce them. It's like motorbikes and red lights. Okay? It's like enforcement is what we need. How are stakeholders, I left this one to the last deliberately, how are stakeholders involved? Not enough. Somebody asked me this question yesterday when I was on the panel discussion. Stakeholders are not involved, local stakeholders are not involved enough in management. And for me, if you want to fix those resilience factors, not the warming oceans, not the growing storms, but the local resilience factors, you have to work with the local communities, and we can prove it works. But why? Is because you rely on local communities and local stakeholders because they're the ones doing the damage in the first place. All right? Or they're party to the damage in the first place. Think about, I don't know, Parentian Island. What happens on Parentian? Tourism. It's about it. That's their economy. Okay? How are the locals involved in that? How involved in that are they? Are they engaged in it? Are they asked about things? Do they want to be engaged? When the marine parks were set up around Parentian and Red Island and all the other islands in 1994, so the marine parks are 30 years old this year. Nobody knew that. Right? 1994, they were imposed. The government came along and said, this island is now a marine park and you cannot fish around it anymore. And the locals were like, yeah, but we're all fishing it. And the government's like, we don't care. Right? Now, the way I put it, it sounds a bit harsh, but it's the truth. Okay, that was what happened. Now, fortunately, most of the islands have grown the tourism industry, so they have replaced the one livelihood with another. But it's taken a long time, and trust me, the islands are still pissed off, even 30 years later. Engaging communities makes them partners in inclusive management. I'll give you a little example from my housing area. There's a new condo being built at the bottom of the hill, and nobody wants it in their backyard. Nobody wants a new condo, right? But in this case, there are a couple of real concerns. The main one is that we're getting more and more rain, right? So there's more and more flooding. And for the first time since I started living there 26 years ago, the road is now flooding. All right? You can't get through. I've actually been dropped off by a grab driver 30 metres over there because he wouldn't drive through because he couldn't have got through. So I had to wade through to walk up the hill and get home. What would I have done if I'd needed an ambulance? Which 2 weeks ago we did when my father-in-law was taken ill. Couldn't have got through. Right? So the old man dies because somebody's building a condo and damaging the drains and we can't get in and out of our housing area. That's a real concern. Now, did the condo developers come to us and say, what are your concerns? Completely ignored us. So what are we going to do now? Close the road. Like that. $5,000 a year, $5,000 a day for each piece of equipment they have on the site to rent it. It's 10 pieces of equipment, it's costing them 50,000 ringgit a day. How long do you think they want to keep that equipment sitting there doing nothing? All because they simply didn't do the polite thing and say, we'd like to build this condo, anybody got any problems? Right? So not involving local stakeholders has quite serious consequences. Right? They just nobody says we have to agree to this condo. Right? Nobody says we have to like it. Nobody says we have to cooperate with its construction. But if you'd come and asked us first, maybe things would have been easy. We could have found an easy way to do things. So bringing communities involved makes them partners in inclusive approaches instead of making enemies of them. And that's what happened in the marine parks. There's practical things you can do: capacity building, training, participatory planning and co-management. And I love what's happening on Tierman. Engaging the community brings them together a little bit. And I keep mentioning Tierman, so what have we done? This is where our longest established island base. We've been there for 10 years. We set up the Tierman Marine Conservation Group in 2015. And they are now basically doing the management tasks on the island. They are removing ghost nets. This is a fishing net that gets released by a fishing boat. It drifts through the water until it gets caught in a coral reef, and then it stays there, and it catches sharks and turtles and other fish, and it drags across the coral and does a lot of damage. So we take them out of the water. Who should do this? The Marine Park Manager, Department of Fisheries. They don't, so we do. It's okay. Goes through as coral reef rehabilitation, so the small-scale triage programs we said about repairing the small bits of reef. We're looking at waste management as well. We do plastic recycling on the island. The coolest bit for me is when we started Reef Check, I was one of the people that would go to Tierman and do the coral reef surveys. Right? So we say, hey, look what's happening with your reefs, and the locals like, who's this white guy? Right? And then we train people like Mabel. So Mabel goes to the island and says, there's the coral reef data, it's not very good, is it? And they're like, who's this outsider? Right? Now, it's the local guys doing it, guys and girls. Okay? Now it's brother to brother, it's cousin to father, it's local communities, peer to peer, saying we have some problems. That's a really strong message. So we started in Tierman, and then we started to replicate that to other areas. So in Antanani Island, which is a small island off the northwest coast of Sabah, used to have a big problem with fish bombing. Why? Because it's remote, there's no police, there's no authorities. It's like, why not, right? It's easy. Throw a bomb in the water, the fish all float to the surface, you pick them all up, and you're done for the day. Who needs to go through a whole day with a net and all that hard work? But it tends to destroy the ecosystem that produces the fish, right? So it's not a good idea. So we started working with them. We put in some fish bomb detectors, which is quite cool technology. We started talking to the locals. We and other people, it wasn't just us, it was a whole bunch of people. We looked at waste management, that's a way to get friendly with the local community. We created alternative livelihoods through building homestays. And the fish bombing is now down to just 1% of what it was. Okay, so over the period 2014 to 2017, it went down from 2,400 a year to 240 in the first 2 years, and then it's down to just about, I don't know, 10, 15, 20, 25 per year. So it's just 1 or 2 a month now. Now, it's still not a great thing, but it's been improved, right? And it's mainly because of economic development, and the locals were involved in the conversations. If we had said, you can't do this anymore, they'd probably throw fish bombs at us and say, go away. It doesn't solve the problem. On Redang Island, I couldn't believe it when they told me about this. This is a scene from one of the popular beaches in Redang Island today. It's appalling. There are as many as 200 boats coming every day. And here are some of those stupid tourists we were talking about shooting. So, first of all, there's too many of them, like mass tourism. Secondly, they're not managing their tourists well. Okay? Thirdly, this area, this is the beach where all the boats are. This area is a popular turtle foraging ground in the shallow water here. And here's where there were like 3 boat strikes in a week, all involving boats from the mainland. These are not island boats, these are all from the mainland. And being mainland, it's okay, we get it, but you don't understand coral reefs, you don't understand driving boats in these areas. You have to be slow, you have to be careful, right? So we worked with the local community, and they set up this, sorry, it's not a very good drawing, but they set up this boat exclusion zone around the main turtle foraging area. Alright? It wasn't us, it wasn't Marine Parks, it was local guys did that for themselves. They said, we've got to keep you quiet.
Why does it get off the...
Buoys and ropes, buoy ropes. So it's on the surface. So now, the boats don't go inside, like they used to. Instead, they moor on the side. They've got something to moor onto, that's a benefit. You keep out of the turtle area, that's a benefit. And you take it from there and you do more education and awareness with them. You teach them better stuff about, but again, more best practices. But like I said, it wasn't us, it was the locals did that. Okay, because we empowered them and said, what do you think we should do? And instead of being told by the Department of Fisheries, they made their own decision. And it was a good one. The last one, this is the coolest one. How do I make that work? I think I can do that. So work. Let me go around this. This is worth watching. It's quite a cool little video. Except I just can't make my machine work. Right. So this is in Sempurna, which is in the south of Sabah. And the guy on the right is piloting a drone. And he's taking this boat to these 2 boats. This boat guy is now a community warden, appointed by Sabah Parks very recently. And they are now protecting their own fishing grounds against encroachment from outside. Some of these guys are fish bombers, not all of them. But they're going up to them and saying, would you please not fish here because this is our traditional fishing ground. Right? There's no conflict involved, it's not adversarial. All we did was say, you know, if your concern is outsiders coming into your fishing area, why don't you think of ways to ask them not to? Oh, you can't do that. Yeah, sure you can. Just ask them. You know, approach them and just ask them. Some of them are going to be aggressive. Most of them, we have found from experience, say, sorry, we didn't realise, and they go away. All right? And now they've got the tech to do it from a distance. And so this is, like, how cool is that? Right? Communities, oh, there's that word again, looking after their own resources. So those are 4 case studies from the work that we do. So engaging local communities has several benefits. You can build the resilience of the reefs because they get engaged in solving those local threats. Your reefs are healthier, your tourism product is better, and the fishery is more productive. You get better, you foster stewardship, so what you do is you improve compliance with the marine park rules. So instead of having to tell people you're not allowed to fish here, they understand why they're not allowed to fish there, and then they stop fishing there because they realise how important it is. Compliance is a very important thing, and you can't force people to be compliant. You have to encourage them and incentivise them to be compliant with the regulations. You also strengthen management because you have local communities alongside government agencies, and you get better conservation outcomes. So again, your ecosystems are healthier. The blurb for this thing says, Julian will tell you how to do all of this. It's a piece of cake, you go and talk to him. It really is this simple. Go talk to the schools on the islands. So all of our field locations in Tioman, in Racine, in Parentian, and Redang, and Saporna, we're doing school programs. Mantanani, right? All school programs to tell the kids about the ecosystems why. We're doing capacity building so that now they can do the coral reef surveys themselves, for example. Now they can do the rehabilitation themselves. We're doing jobs training so that they can develop alternative livelihoods. Right? This is in Mantanani. We're teaching some of the ladies how to do some sewing things so they can produce handicrafts and they can make more money. Consultations. Sit with them and ask them what they want, what their expectations are. That's the most important. You don't have to listen to what they say, right? You don't have to take into account everything they say, because some things they'll want. They're like, yeah, no, sorry, we just can't do that. But since you asked, let's have a look at this issue, right? Because you started a dialogue. So instead of being in an adversarial relationship all the time, you're in an open and communicative one. The Department of Fisheries still thinks the way to go to do consultations, you go to the island, tell them what it is, and then you leave. They think that's a consultation. It's not. No one of the locals don't listen. You give them new job skills. Like I said, you help them with these two or three things are all about putting more money in their pockets from tourism or from conservation. The cool thing about this one is that they realise, hey, there's money in conservation. I don't only have to be a tourism guide. I can get involved in conservation. And this one, the same. This is the locals getting involved in ruining the ghost nets. We pay them a bit of money when they come and help us. Right? You add all of this together, and over 10 years in Tioman, we have seen a change in attitude amongst the local community. They understand why there's a marine park, they understand what the marine park is for, they're supportive of the goals of the marine park, and compliance has improved. Right? So there's less fishing, there's less poaching on the island, people get it, right? And we can show that in the data I showed you earlier on. The data for Tioman is showing a little bit of an improvement. All right, so doing all of this, you actually get healthier reefs. How good is that? So we're now, like I said, we're replicating it with other islands, and it's all good stuff, and it works, and everybody's happy. It costs us a lot of money, but that's okay because we have nice sponsors to fund that for us. I'm not going to put them on the spot. And that's it. So I don't know what time it is, but does anybody want to ask me any questions? Yes, sir.
Are you sharing what the experience with Fisheries Department?
We're trying to, but they're not easy to communicate with because it's my experience, not just in Malaysia but elsewhere. Government agencies have a mindset. It's the same in the UK. You should go to the local planning department in the UK and try and get a sensible answer to a simple question. It's impossible. So they have a mindset. It's very difficult. One of the things we're increasingly doing is talking to other government agencies than just the Department of Fisheries. For a long time we focused on them as our main partner. But we realised we need to talk to other people, so we're now having more regular meetings with Ministry of Natural Resources and what's it called now? Natural Resources and Environmental Sustainability. Keep changing their name. We've started to talk to Ministry of Tourism about sustainable tourism. We're also reaching out to the 3 state governments on the East Coast, Terengganu, Pahang and Johor, and because they're interested in taking a place in management. Right? There's more than one stakeholder. Well, that's one of the questions. Okay, questions. One of the questions I said was, who are the important stakeholders? And everybody's come back and said, everybody, the majority was local community, but federal government is also a stakeholder for us. We couldn't do anything without the DOF, right? We couldn't do the service. State governments are important because they own the land, right? In Malaysia, under the constitution, land is a state issue. We want to talk about that, we have to talk about state government. Yes, local communities are important. What about your employees? You're a company based in KL or in Johor or in Lipa, wherever it is, right? Your employees are one of your key stakeholders because, I said this yesterday as well, you know, you've got a guy who works 9 till 5 and he does an okay job, right? And so you pay him an okay salary. And then he goes home and he becomes a scoutmaster, or he's interested in this thing, or he's passionate about this. And if you're just paying him for a 9 to 5 job and not engaging with him in other ways, you're losing all of that passion and interest, which you could then harness somehow. Not by saying, okay, I'll pay you more if you work harder and get passionate about this. No, but by supporting that. So if you've got 3 or 4 people in your company that want to set up a club about hiking waterfalls, I don't know, give them $50 for a t-shirt each. Right? They're going to carry on engaging in their passion. You just created another connected stakeholder. So everybody, you know, yes, we talk about local communities, okay? They're our main stakeholder, but anybody talking about stakeholders should talk about these other things as well. And businesses on the islands, they're not local community, but my goodness, they're important. What if all of the dive operators ignore us when we're trying to introduce best practices, right? Oh, well, you're an NGO, we don't listen to you for that. We don't have to listen to you. It's like, yeah, you do, because it's best practices. Yeah, but we don't need that. So they're all important to be communicated with. Right, where was I? Does somebody have a question?
No, I don't want to
Oh, yeah.
What you did with the local community is good. What you do now is to educate the government service, all these public service. They need education. If you bring them involved, they get involved, nothing they will slowly learn. They dislike people coming out, especially NGOs coming to tell them what to do. It's a fact. So we have to go around there and consult them, engage them, and listen to them. Although they talk rubbish, but listen to them.
I'm glad you said that. I'd get in trouble if I said it.
You know, I'm an ex-councillor, but there's education now. The situation is worse now. Listen to them.
So recently we have started working with the all-party parliamentary group in Malaysia on the SDGs to do exactly that. Is to reach out to some MPs, but also we need to talk to government agencies, yes. And we've realised somebody inside one of the government agencies we work for, I won't say who it is, but one of them said, you know, the problem you're having is that you're making us look not good.
This side.
Right, because you're doing too much. It's like, we're not doing too much, we're doing what needs to be done. But that alienates the government agencies.
True.
So you're right. Even though they do it slowly, you have to engage.
You have to do it. So that they come up with ideas. I do what I did before. I plant the ideas into them. And they come up with the ideas and they claim ownership. And they get 100% support.
Yes. And
It's
we've been,
psychology. You have to do apply what psychology.
we've been very slow at doing it, but we understand now. So we too can learn.
Yeah, please do that.
Yeah.
From my experience, I'm sharing. That's what I did.
Okay.
Other people work. Especially younger generations. They think they're smart, but they're not smart.
I would definitely agree with that.
They have plenty of ego,
Yeah.
but you have to break down the barrier and convince them and plant the ideas to them so that they will come back with your ideas. But you see, good, good.
See, another reason why stakeholder engagement is important, it works 2 ways.
Oh, yes.
We're working with the islanders, but they're also working on us. They're telling us, yeah, but you can't come in and say that, because that's not how things work on our island.
That's right.
You can't go in the DOF and say you have to do this. It's like, that's not how things... So it is very much a 2-way process. Thank
Yes,
you.
it is. I was in Thailand from the University of Kansai. They went down to the villages to teach them how to do fish farming.
Right.
The whole university, professor go down there, stay there for about 3 months. They live there, they stay there, and they teach the villagers from first in theory, subsequently teach them how to manually dig up ponds, manually, step by step, teach them by teach you theory and practical. And then you do line lining to stabilize it. Finally, bring in a fish fry. You stay for 2 hours before they packed up and move. And the whole system works so well until today because they have ownership. They actually built the whole system. And they're so proud of it and very defensive. And it's spread to all the villages around the area.
And I think that's why attitudes are changing on Tierman, because we're engaging them directly in the conservation.
Yeah.
Okay. Mabel?
Based on patterns and all that, how long do you foresee this coral bleaching event, this very bad?
Oh God, going back to the beginning. It's receding now, so the temperatures have gone back down to normal, almost. And we're continuing monitoring. We'll have to continue monitoring through to the end of the year. And we won't know until then, really, how much has died off and how much has recovered. We can see in some places that it is recovering. We can see in other places that the coral has actually died. You can tell the difference. But the extent of die-off and the extent of recovery, we don't know yet. But at least the bleaching event has finished. The warm water has gone away. It's moved out into the Pacific Ocean. But I won't be able to tell you what the result is until closer to the end of the year, maybe even next year.
And you expect this warming of seas, it's going to get worse and worse.
Yeah, so that's why, but it's so emphasis on the local situation, because I can't do anything about the warming ocean, right? We can only fix that, we can only help that with the resilience at local level, and to do that you have to change things on the island, and to do that you don't need government agencies, you need local communities to get engaged. They're the ones operating tourism, they're the ones that need to be persuaded to install better sewage treatment, they're the ones that need to adopt the best practices for boat driving, for boat operation, snorkeling, diving, whatever. Restaurants, you have to put a grease trap on your restaurant. So many restaurants on the island are next to a convenient river. So the grease just goes into the river. Where does it go from there? Nobody cares. It goes out into the sea, carries all of that pollution with it.
Yeah,
The restaurants have to do that.
You need to engage with the local authority because under the bylaws, for every restaurant, they're supposed to not to discharge effluents to the sea or the river. So you need against it enforcement. The rules are there. It's like enforcement. Sometimes I play the game because the restaurants pay the enforcement officers. So when you meet to them, I say pay the enforcement more so they catch the restaurants.
But that's back to policies. Like I said, we've got all the policies being. We have policies on this, but they're not being enforced. So enforcement is a problem at several
Because they do pays extra.
Talking of which, how important is stakeholder consultation to your organisation? Most people said very important. Some people said we do some but could do better. And one person says we don't see the need for stakeholder consultation. Which took me back a little bit, I have to be honest, but hey, it's a poll, right? So you can vote as you wish. That's that one. And the other one was, why did you join? Well, I'm not going to go over why we joined, I just hope you've learned something. So we've come to the end of the time, more or less, I think. And some of you will be wanting to get off, so I'm happy to stay for a while if people have questions. But if you have to go off, please don't let me stop you going off.